stuff and just beating them because they're Jewish. Other people heard about this, and you want to know what they did? I'll give you a quick guess. Go on, guess. Guess. No, really. Educate. They joined in! Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Massacre of the Jews that happened in the year 1007 through the year 1012. But before we get into that, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe because these videos actually take a really long time to make. And you'd be doing me the greatest favor if you actually did do those things. But without further ado, let's talk about one of the most craziest massacres to ever happen to the Jewish people. By the way, I just want to go ahead and say this. If I'm wearing the same shirt over and over and over again, a bunch of these videos were recorded in one day. Yeah, I just wanted to go ahead and say that. So, the King of France, Robert II, was basically a king, and he ruled under a place that was under one faith. And at the time, the Jews did not believe what he wanted to believe. So, he gave them a quote-unquote ultimatum. He basically told them, change your faith or leave. Basically, he wanted everybody to follow the same faith, but since other people were Jews and he was not a Jew, it couldn't, follow under the same faith. So he gave them an ultimatum being like, yo, leave or change your faith. And then instead of protecting the Jewish people, he listened to the angry voices in his head, and he basically went up to the Jews, and he was like, change your faith or leave. And this was very scary for the Jews because this was their home. They had never known any other home before this, so they're just like, oh, well, why? That doesn't make sense. Questioning why they're getting an eviction notice. Bro, and when he started being mean to the Jews, other people thought it was okay. Can you believe that? Bro, imagine, oh my goodness, bro, imagine the President of the United States today being like, what am I thinking of? Not liking, Muslims, or Christians, or Jews, or, something like that. And they don't like them, then you look at him and you're like, oh yeah, that seems right. I don't like you. What? You're telling me just because some angry dude didn't like the Jews, that gives you a right to not like the Jews? First of all, that's wild. Second of all, that's insane! And then one day, a group of angry people straight up pull up to a Jew's house. They break into this person's house. They just start breaking stuff. And they're just stealing everything. And they're just causing destruction left, right, and center. And the Jewish families, they hide. Think of it was like a neighborhood. This happened to multiple different houses. But it was crazy because why they were doing it. Some Jewish people tried to leave France, but at this time, if you were a Jew and you left France, a lot of quote unquote communities or self-proclaimed communities wouldn't help you because you were a Jew. The most dominant religions at this time, I'm going off of a limb here, but I would assume it's Christianity and Islam. I could be wrong. But a lot of quote-unquote neighboring communities were not, didn't like the Jews, and they didn't like the fact that they didn't believe that, Jesus wasn't, they proclaimed that Jesus wasn't the Son of God or wasn't the Messiah. You gotta think, the journey was hard for them. They didn't have any money, nor did they have any food. Actually, the leaders of the Jews actually went up to the king, and they begged him, and they tried to make him listen to reason, being like, yo, we've done nothing wrong. Just because we're Jews doesn't give you a right to exile us from our place of home. And then the king was like, nah, I'm good. Do you know what's absolutely crazy about this? At the time, when the king did not like Jews, listen, now lock in for a second. What I'm about to tell you is going to blow your mind. But when the king did not like the Jews, and when these people, non-Jewish people, started attacking Jewish neighborhoods and started running amok, hurting people, and let me think of something else. What else happened? Oh yeah, stealing their stuff and just beating them because they're Jewish. Other people heard about this, and you want to know what they did? I'll give you a quick guess. Go on, guess. Guess. No, really. Educate. They joined in! Meaning these people saw that the Jews were in trouble, and instead of helping them, they joined in! What? They didn't even only attack the neighborhoods either. No. They attacked the shops, they attacked their homes, they attacked their places of worship, and a lot of the Jews were forced to flee or they were forced to hide. And these people were really crazy because they had done nothing wrong, and it was only because they were Jewish. A lot of the Jewish people, or a lot of the Jews, tried to leave this like oppression, but as they tried, you gotta think, oh my goodness, at this time they weren't really left with a lot of options. Like when they tried leaving France, a lot of communities weren't welcoming to them. So some of them tried hiding out in the forest, but like they didn't have any food or like any like resources of any kind. And also winter would roll around, so that plan would be cut short. Now we finna talk about the priests. Oh, so the priests go up to the Jews and they're like, hey, just change your faith and we won't slaughter you. That's crazy! That's actually insane. Like, imagine you being a Jew, Christian, Muslim, or whatever, like any religion of any kind, and your people are getting slaughtered, and I come up to you of a different religion, and I'm like, hey, if you change your religion to my religion, we won't slaughter you. Sound good? And unfortunately, some agreed, some out of fear decided to change their minds, and it was just a really, really terrible time for the Jews. It was terrible. And at this time, people took away Jews' kids because they thought it was a good idea for them to grow up with a different faith instead of the faith that they had now. Wow, dude. Some of them actually locked themselves in their places of worship because they thought that, they surely won't defile our place of worship. They did, and they burned the entire place down, taking them with it. Okay, boom, jump cut. I just got back from the dentist. They put me through a bunch of... I might make a video on how psycho dentists are. I really might. Oh, I forgot to cut the video too. So the Jews tried hiding in like their homes and their houses. They tried hiding them, and then the Jews would get ripped out, and they'd get taken to the center of a square. The center of a square, what? The center of like a town, and they would get... they would suffer a bunch, and it was a very bad time for the Jews. And a lot of people, like, here's what the thing was. They'd go up to the Jews, and they'd be like, convert, or we are going to end you. And, you know, they really had no choice, so they had to convert. And, you know, it's not even, it was crazy. And a lot of people were scared for their families, too. And, you know, it was just a terrible time. Oh, by the way, the king could have stopped this. He just chose not to. Let that sink in. The only person that had the power and authority to stop this massacre on the Jews did nothing. That's crazy. And a lot of the Jews couldn't take it anymore, so they just left France and they went to other places. They weren't welcomed, and so they were hungry, dehydrated, and afraid, and they needed to find a place to stay, or otherwise they were gonna, you know. By now, Jewish families have already fled. They were either smoked or they just hid. Some of them did not want to leave, so they just hid and hoped for the best. And some people actually thought that their friends the Jews thought that some of their friends would protect them, but it was actually the opposite. They just ratted them out. Like, they would tell them where, like, other hiding spots are in exchange for, like, their life to be spared. And, you know, they burned down their places of worship. So in this place of worship, there were people praying. There were Jews praying in the... How do I say this? There were Jews praying in the like place of worship, and then it like burned down, and they went down with it, and it was crazy. And then the king's final words. He declared that Jewish people are not allowed in France, and that, yeah. Let that sink in. He could have changed it. He just chose not to. And yeah, everything was destroyed. It was just so insane. But yeah, that's the end of that. So, massacres of Jews. What did we learn from this? We learned that no matter how hard... The moral of the story, don't discriminate and slaughter people that are a different religion than you. What? Like if someone's Jewish or a Muslim or Christian, don't slaughter them because they're not your religion. That's insane. Like, why would you want to do that? But yeah, that was the video. I think this might be dropping tomorrow. Yeah, I feel like it would. But make sure to like, comment, and subscribe because these videos actually take a really long time to make, and you'd be doing me the biggest favor if you actually did do those things. But yeah, I feel like that's about it. I thank you, I love you, and God bless.